In what many are calling one of the most emotional moments in AEW history, the son of the icon, Sting, Steven Borden, officially made his in-ring debut, marking a new chapter in one of professional wrestling's most legendary family legacies. The debut wasn't just another wrestling match, it was a symbolic torch-passing moment, the son stepping into the shadow of a father whose name has defined eras of wrestling greatness. But as expected, when a name like Sting is involved, fans, critics, and wrestling insiders all turned their attention to the man whose words often shape wrestling discussions, Dave Meltzer. The veteran wrestling journalist and editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter has now assessed Steven Borden's debut, and his detailed review is sending ripples throughout the industry. The build-up to a historic moment. Steven Borden's journey to his debut wasn't sudden. For months, fans speculated whether Sting's son would follow in his father's footsteps or carve a different path altogether. Born into a household where wrestling was more than a profession, it was a calling, Steven grew up witnessing the highs and lows of the wrestling business firsthand. Sources close to AEW reveal that Tony Khan had been carefully planning Steven's debut for over a year. The company wanted to ensure that it would not just be a moment of hype, but a defining event that felt earned, both for the performer and for the fans who grew up idolizing Sting. And so, on that electrifying night, the arena lights dimmed, the familiar echoes of Sting's theme filled the air, and out came Steven, a striking figure in black and white, mirroring elements of his father's iconic look, yet carrying himself with a distinct confidence that immediately caught the crowd's attention. A debut that captured the crowd. From the moment he stepped through the curtain, the audience was on their feet. Chants of Sting's son and "Welcome Steven" filled the arena. Cameras caught Sting himself watching from ringside, his expression a mix of pride, nostalgia, and emotion. Steven's opponent for the night was AEW's rising talent Darius Martin, a performer known for speed and technical prowess. What followed was not a squash match, nor a spectacle of shortcuts, it was a genuine wrestling contest designed to showcase Steven's skill set. He displayed agility, sharp timing, and a surprising composure under pressure. His ring psychology, the way he sold moves, responded to the crowd, and stayed present in the moment, reflected not just training but an instinctive understanding of the business. The finishing sequence drew a massive pop, a scorpion-style death drop, modified into a modern twist, followed by a sharpshooter that brought the crowd to its loudest roar of the night. When Darius tapped, the arena erupted. Dave Meltzer's honest assessment. A few hours after the event, fans flooded social media, eagerly awaiting Dave Meltzer's reaction. Known for his analytical breakdowns and decades-long insight into wrestling performances, Meltzer's review arrived in the next issue of the Wrestling Observer newsletter. Here's what Meltzer had to say. Greater than, Steven Borden's debut was handled with tremendous care. AEW made sure not to overexpose him or rely solely on nostalgia. Instead, they showcased him as an athlete with legitimate promise. The presentation was emotional but balanced, and Steven's composure in front of a major crowd was impressive. He's still raw, of course, but his fundamentals are solid. The connection with the audience was immediate and authentic. Meltzer rated the match 3.75 stars, emphasizing that while Steven is not yet a finished product, his potential is undeniable. He further noted, greater than, there's something naturally magnetic about Steven. You can't teach presence, and he has it. If AEW invests the right amount of time and development, we might be seeing the early stages of a star who can carry the Sting legacy forward without being crushed by it. The emotional side of the debut. Backstage, reports say that Sting was visibly emotional following the match. Witnesses shared that father and son shared a quiet embrace, a moment years in the making. One AEW staff member described it as a real passing of the torch moment, not for the cameras, not for the headlines, but for the soul of wrestling. Fans online echoed this sentiment. Social media platforms were filled with heartfelt messages, comparing the moment to other iconic family legacies in wrestling, from the Rhodes to the Harts and the Flairs. However, many noted that Steven's debut felt refreshingly authentic. There was no forced nostalgia or overproduced spectacle. Instead, it was raw emotion backed by genuine performance. Industry reaction and locker room buzz. Inside AEW, wrestlers reportedly gave Steven high marks for his professionalism and humility. Several veterans, including Chris Jericho and Bryan Danielson, were seen offering him words of encouragement backstage. Jericho, speaking in a post-show interview, said, "Greater than, Steven handled the pressure like a pro. Everyone here knows what it's like to wrestle in front of a crowd expecting you to live up to your father's name, and that's a lot. But he didn't try to be Sting. He was Steven Borden, and that's what made it work. Fans also appreciated AEW's restraint in storytelling. Instead of announcing the debut weeks in advance, they kept it a surprise, a decision that heightened the emotional payoff when it finally happened. Steven Borden, The Road Ahead. Dave Meltzer's review wasn't just about the debut, it was also about what comes next. He wrote, the key for AEW now is pacing. Steven Borden's growth must be organic. The worst thing the company can do is push him too fast or too hard. His story should unfold naturally, through training, challenges, and setbacks that make the audience invest in him as his own man. As of now, AEW insiders indicate that Steven will continue to train under some of the company's top coaches, including Dean Malenko and Jerry Lynn. There are even discussions of pairing him in future tag matches with Darby Allin, Sting's longtime ally, a move that could bridge past and present in a meaningful storyline. A legacy reborn. For Sting, who is reportedly nearing the official end of his legendary career, his son's debut represents a poetic full circle. The icon, who once redefined the art of storytelling inside a wrestling ring, now watches as his legacy evolves into something new. Dave Meltzer closed his assessment with one line that resonated deeply with fans. It's rare to see a legacy moment feel this pure. Steven Borden didn't just step into the ring, he stepped into history. Fan reactions. A mix of pride and nostalgia. Across social media, wrestling fans expressed overwhelming support for Steven's debut. One fan wrote on X, formerly Twitter, "It's like watching the next generation of my childhood take flight. Sting made me fall in love with wrestling, and now, his son reminds me why I still watch." Another fan commented, "He's not trying to copy his dad, and that's what's beautiful about it. You can see Sting's influence, but Steven has his own energy." Within 24 hours of his debut, AEW's official YouTube clip of Steven's entrance surpassed 2 million views, making it one of the most watched segments of the week. Conclusion. The birth of a new chapter. When Dave Meltzer assesses a wrestler, his words carry weight, but in this case, even his analytical review couldn't capture the full emotion of the moment. Steven Borden's debut wasn't about ratings or rankings. It was about family, legacy, and the rare beauty of seeing generations connect through passion. AEW's decision to handle the moment with respect and restraint proved that professional wrestling still thrives on storytelling rooted in heart, not just hype. For Sting, it was the proudest night of his career. For AEW, it was another chapter in proving that the company understands how to blend tradition with innovation. And for Steven Borden, it was only the beginning. As Meltzer concluded in his report, if Steven continues to evolve at this pace, one day, we may not be talking about Sting's son, but simply, Steven Borden. A name that stands tall on its own.